Hi. So, what I'd like to share with you about now is the concept of God. We tend to look at God as this finite entity outside of ourselves that we are all catching up to, that we are subservient to, we are lesser than, we are inferior to. We kind of look at ourselves oftentimes in a derogatory way to God. God is perfect, we are flawed. Um, the best way to look at it is if you take the analogy of the sun and its rays and you consider the sun as God. Well, from the ball of sun emanates the rays. And then from there, we can look at all of the rays and we can say there are all of these separate rays. So if we're looking at the ball of sunlight as God, and we're looking at all of the rays that extend as ourself, this one, that one, the next one, the next one, the next one, right? So that would be like me and you and your mother and your uncle and whoever and whatever, and your teacher and this one and that one, right? We appear all separate, one to the other. Now, consider though, are the rays separate from the ball of sun, from the sun itself, the rays that emanate? Are those rays a separate entity from the sun itself, or is that simply an optical illusion? And are those rays truly separate from one the other, or is all of that an optical illusion? Well, it's all an optical illusion. That's just down to our sensory perception. And we perceive in the way that we do for the purpose of experience, because to have experience, there has to be duality. You cannot know anything without knowing some polar opposite of it, because there has to be a basis of comparison. So it's essentially a game or a simulation. This life is that God has come up with. That God, that which we want to call God, which is really ourself. We are the aspect of God that has forgotten itself, that has forgotten that it is God. I'll say that again. We are the aspect of that which man wants to call God, that all the religions want to point to. We are the aspect of that God that has forgotten itself. And this is on purpose. God has forgotten itself on purpose, for the purpose of knowing itself more fully, and really for having the experience of itself. If you do not have the experience of yourself, you cannot fully know yourself. The more you know yourself, well, the more enriching of an experience that is for you. It's like a coming home sort of experience. And again, we like to project God as this, superior thing that is done. It's finite, it's finished. Well, that cannot be true, because then that flies in the face of eternity. There can be no finite if there is eternal. So which one is it? Let's make up our minds here, because it cannot be one without the other. So truly you want to consider that which you call God, that which man calls God, is too expanding. God is expanding. It's not just that you are expanding. You are an extension of God. You are the excuse for God experiencing itself out here in this time and space reality. And as you take your expansion, God takes its expansion, and on and on and on it goes like that. And you're not, when we consider you, you are a point of consciousness. Now, we know there are many points of consciousness, because God did not just project itself out as you. God projected itself out as many. and there are therefore as many worlds, we could say, as there are points of consciousness. So that's kind of cool to know, that which you call God is expanding. That means that God doesn't even know what it will end up being. Literally, that which you call God does not know its end. It's all open. It's all wide open for you and for that which you want to call God. This can be a hard subject for some because, we like our comfort blankets in life. We like what we've been taught. We like what we've come to find comfort in. A lot of people take comfort in this idea of this finite God, this, big daddy in the sky that's taking care of all of us, right? That is finite, that is perfect, and that is, immutable and just, well, immutable is not the right thing there, but, is this superior thing that is finished, and all we have to do is just catch up to it. And then that seems okay because, well, then that means there's an end. So that means that the end is okay, because it's known. And, we don't like the unknown. We're not comfortable with the unknown. But see, God is known because God is supposedly a finished thing, and all we have to do is just catch up with it. But that's not the way it is at all. Because again, that would then fly in the face of eternity. And there's no same finite thing traveling through space and time of eternity. No, it's continuing to expand. That's the whole purpose. And you are quite literally the excuse for God's expansion. You are quite literally the excuse for God entertaining itself through having the experience of itself. God is experiencing itself through you. Now, the thing is, our minds, we can only take this so far, and we just entertain ourselves with this sort of thing because our minds, our brains cannot even begin to scratch the surface of this sort of conversation. Mind you, though, we will swear it up and down. We'll risk our life for it. We'll drop bombs on babies in innocent countries in the name of God because I know it so well and all of this. Get a life, okay? I say that to you with the utmost respect, and I say that in a loving way. But come on. No, you don't. Your brain cannot even begin to comprehend this. We can just scratch the surface. We can just get an idea enough. And that's good because that kind of puts us in our place. When we know too much, we're usually, the more we know, the further we are away from God. Or that the experience of that sort of oneness of that phenomenon that we want to call God, which is essentially the larger part of ourself. God, simply put, is the larger aspect of you. You are a projection of God into a time-space reality. So for the purpose of God experiencing itself, you are simply a personality construct, which is like an ego, which is not really, there's like the negative ego, of course, but the ego is not all bad because the ego is the driving force, or it gives the purpose for one's experience, because as we are all, points of consciousness, there is therefore then, tendencies or traits and, a personality construct. It's basically an excuse to, or, many different lenses to see life through. Because then God is seeing all the different aspects of itself, considering itself from all different angles, and that's great. It's a big conversation, and it's one like I'm finding myself coming in and out of this conversation a little bit because you go down a rabbit hole with it, because as well I have to present myself in a way like I really know what I'm talking about here. I can't prove none of this. I can't prove any of this. Like, I can prove this. I mean, it seems like I can prove this because look, I can say, here it is. It looks like this. It's this kind of color. Because, like we all agree on color and we all agree on, certain things. But like this sort of thing that, I'm sharing with you here, I can't point to it. I can't point to it. I can't, like this light switch here, like I can point to that. But like this sort of conversation, I can't point to it. I can't prove it to you. It's just simply something that I've come across from other teachings and as well informations that have come to me. I don't know where they're coming from sometimes. Oftentimes, as I'm speaking to you, I have the experience almost as if I'm like channeling because I'm clear that these words coming out of my mouth, they're not coming from the everyday uh, thinking, just the general everyday thinking part of the mind. It's not, it really is not coming from there because I'm hearing it for the first time as it's coming out of my mouth and it's like news to me, really. So it's coming from somewhere. But again, like I couldn't go into a court of law and prove it. Maybe we could hook my brain up to some electrodes and we could, prove out that, okay, well, now in this sort of speak, a certain part of the brain is lighting up, that another part of the brain is during my everyday routine and like that sort of thing. But I can't prove any of this. It's just the best thing that I've found to have this big, scary thing, as it oftentimes occurs, called life, that we call life, make more sense. It's what has, when I've either received it, like downloaded it as sort of blocks of informations of energy or, of just information that flows to me, and then I have to either speak it or write it down because I feel like I could jump out of my body sometimes. It's what allows me to, well, life just makes the most sense through this. It's like you get goosebumps when you hear it. It resonates. You really resonate with this information, and I don't know where it's coming from. I can't prove it, but there's got to be something going on there. Because again, the fact that it's news to me as I'm hearing the words come out of my mouth, sometimes I shock myself. Sometimes because I talk to myself sometimes. This is nothing new. I'll sometimes be doing this in the mirror because there's just so much energy pouring through me. I'm like, I've got to get it out. And so recently I've just found the courage to do it in this sort of way, to put this out there and share it with the world. And I guess, otherwise I'm just like talking out loud. It's just like coming out of me, or oftentimes I'm writing it down. It's coming from somewhere. It's coming from somewhere. And I say where it's coming from is it's coming from the other side of me. There's two sides to everything. There's two sides to every coin. You take a stick, there's this end of the stick, and there's this end of the stick and this end of the stick. Same stick, but two different ends to consider things from. So like there's the larger part of me, which is that which, we could call God. And then there's this part of me, which seems to be is the aspect that has forgotten itself. It's like the donkey. Is the head any greater than the tail? Well, they all work together. Thank God for the whole thing, because the head wouldn't have the best experience if the tail wasn't there. The head seems more valuable, but in any event, it all works together. It takes all of that, working together. And we could say, God is the head and I'm the tail, but it all is one and the same. It all works together. One really is not better than the other because that's simply a part of the design. And it's better when it's all there and when all parts are working as if they are all just as important as the other. So I like to consider that sometimes. We can get into this space of feeling like, who am I? What do I deserve it? What am I worth? Why me? Why would I deserve that? Why would anybody consider me? Why would anybody listen to me? Like what's my worth at the end of the day? Well, a lot, a lot. Because literally, since everything is connected, as everything is connected, this universe literally would not be the same without you. This universe would not be the same without you. This universe would not be the same without me. It's hard to consider, but it would literally, if you came out, let's say, you know that thing that I don't know what that game is called, but when you build all the blocks up, if you know everything is orchestrated in divine time, if let's say somehow we just yanked you out of the equation, the whole thing of life, I promise you, the whole thing of life would collapse because you are holding up your portion of it. Literally, the whole thing would come to an end. It might not seem that way because, you know, when it comes time for somebody to die, it seems like, oh, well, life just goes on. And of course it does, but that was prearranged. Your soul knew about its exit, let's say, from, you know, projecting itself into this physical time and space arena and utilizing this contraption that you call your body. Your soul knew long before, and therefore everything in creation knew long before that retraction happened and your body dropped and goes into the ground. Not you, because you're still here, you're watching this, but you get it, like anybody, anytime that happens. You know, I've heard it said that even, you know, all death is suicide because the soul knew about it and agreed to its own death. Let's say committed its own death. It decided, come out now. Just like in the same way, your soul agreed to project into this time and space reality and chose a theme and chose the place in which it would go down and the sort of theme, if you will, that you would be here exploring during your time as a contribution to all that is, to that which you want to call God in this time space reality. Yeah, you are that important because you are literally not only made in the image and the likeness of God, just as the sun projects out the ray, you could say the ray is made in the image and the likeness of God. But what happens when it retracts back into the sun? Is it separate from God? No, it is the sun. So guess what? You are the sun too, meaning you are that which you want to call God. You are that. You're just simply right now having the experience of not being that. And that serves its purpose because you are the aspect, you are the projection, you are the chosen by God experience of it having forgotten itself. So every time it loops back around on itself, it expands because of it. Every time God, let's say, goes out and forgets itself, as it remembers itself, it comes back around to itself. It has that homecoming experience. And that happens every time, you know, in this arena, that you remember your true nature. And that's that experience people will talk about where they say they felt like they were one with God. It's because in that moment they remembered, however that went down, who they really are, who they truly are. And God takes the expansion because of it. It's God going out as having forgotten itself and having the experience of looping back around on itself in its remembering of itself. And every time it does that, it expands because of it, it expands because of it, it expands because of it. And if I'm doing that, I'm one point of consciousness. And if you're doing that, and he, she, thing, it, everything, every point of consciousness, down to the one-celled amoeba, you know, can you imagine? Like this, the where consciousness has come to, and really where we are today, that's a joke in comparison to where we're going. There's no end to this, friends. No end to this. There's no end to you, there's no end to me, and there's no end to that which we want to call, which we call God. which is simply the larger aspect of ourself, the part of ourself that we retract back into and project it out from, and do that over and over and over, how many gajillion trillion times we've done it already, and we'll continue to do it in whatever fashion and however we choose to project it at the time, whether it be on this planet or whatever, wherever, you know. It's all God having fun. It's all God having the experience of itself through a myriad of different excuses, you being one of them. So thank you for your contribution. You are so valuable. Again, none of this would be the same without you. It takes you. It wouldn't be as good without you. And the fact that you're here, as long as you are, it could not go on without you. You are that integral of a part of all of this. So thank you. And it was wonderful sharing that with you. I hope that you take some value out of that. If you did take value out of this, I invite you to exchange some energy with me here and just take a second and click on the like button. It will really help to get this message out and help that more people get to hear this sort of thing. I think this is very valuable. These are wonderful topics for us to consider, and the more that we as consciousness continue to embrace this sort of thing, we place our minds on this sort of thing, consciousness will only expand more and more because of it, and we will all, at some point in time, we feel the ripple effect of it. You know, if a butterfly flaps its wings in China, the trail effect goes all the way down to San Francisco, because everything is connected. So let's get this message out there. Not just with me, but with so many others that are sharing this sort of thing. It's, we're at an amazing time. We really are taking consciousness way out there on the leading edge, way beyond where it's ever been before. So thank you very much. And again, give this video a like if you will. I would love it if you'd subscribe so you can be aware when I post more of these, and I hope this makes a real difference for you. I think if you sit with it for a while, it really can do that. And share it with as many people as you like. It would be great for everyone to hear this so they can at least have the opportunity to contemplate this sort of thing. It's really powerful. Thank you. Love you all, and see you soon. Bye-bye.